The question landed in the glass-walled conference room like a quiet explosion, one that didn't shatter windows but left invisible cracks in the chest. My CEO, Rachel Whitmore, looked at me with that familiar mix of curiosity and concern. Her words were calm, almost casual, yet they stirred memories I had spent years burying deep inside. I knew, the moment I opened my mouth, my answer would cost her more than she expected. Some questions don't ask for facts. They ask for truth. And truth has a way of breaking hearts, even when no one intends it. Before I continue, I need to ask, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet sacrifices that never make headlines, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe. Your support ensures stories like this reach hearts still healing. My name is Michael Carter, and I had built my life around control because chaos had once taken everything from me. I worked as a senior analyst at a fast-growing tech firm in Seattle, a city known for rain, ambition, and a silent understanding that everyone was running from something. Rachel Whitmore, our CEO, was everything business magazines praise: sharp-minded, decisive, and unexpectedly humane. She remembered birthdays, asked about families, and somehow made a company of 100 feel small enough to care. Over the years, she became more than a boss. She became a steady presence in my carefully structured world. From the outside, my life looked stable, even enviable. I had a respected position, a downtown apartment with a view of the water, and a routine that never faltered. I arrived early, left late, and filled my weekends with work or long walks through Pike Place Market, watching other people live louder, messier lives. What no one saw was the invisible weight I carried. The reason I avoided questions about dating, relationships, or anything hinting at a future with someone else. Years earlier, I'd been married to a woman named Hannah Brooks, a school teacher whose luck had turned the worst day bearable. We lived in a small town in Oregon before my career pulled us north, chasing promises of growth and security. We planned everything carefully: careers, children, a house with a porch. But life, as I learned too late, doesn't follow plans. A distracted driver on a wet highway took Hannah from me one ordinary Tuesday evening, leaving behind silence so loud it felt like punishment. Grief didn't arrive all at once. It crept in slowly, disguised as responsibility. I told myself I had to be strong, had to keep moving, had to honor her by succeeding. I poured myself into work, accepted promotions, relocated, and built walls so efficient that even I forgot they were there. Dating felt like betrayal, not because Hannah would have wanted me to be alone, but because loving again meant risking that kind of pain twice. I convinced myself that surviving once was enough. Rachel noticed things others didn't. She saw how I flinched at office romance jokes, how I redirected conversations to spreadsheets and deadlines, how I volunteered for extra work during holidays and declined personal invitations. Over time, her concern grew quieter but heavier, like a question waiting for the right moment. And that moment came on a late afternoon, when the city outside dimmed into gray and the office emptied around us. She leaned forward and asked me, "What's stopping you from dating?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of years compressed into a single moment. She wasn't asking as a CEO probing an employee. She was asking as a human being who cared about another. I told her the truth. My heart had already learned what it felt like to lose everything, and I wasn't sure it could survive that lesson again. Love, I said, was a beautiful risk, but I no longer knew how to balance loyalty that outlived death against fear disguised as devotion. I didn't blame the world, fate, or anyone else. I simply explained that some doors, once closed by tragedy, feel impossible to open again without tearing the house down. The heartbreak in her eyes was immediate and unguarded. Rachel had her own quiet story: divorce, years devoted to work because it felt safer than hope. My answer didn't just explain my choices. It reflected her unspoken fears back at her. She had asked because she cared, perhaps even because she wondered if there was room in my guarded life for something more. After that day, everything shifted between us. Not professionally. We remained respectful, efficient, but in the space where warmth used to live, casual check-ins stopped. Meetings became strictly business. I told myself clarity was kinder than ambiguity, but the silence felt heavier than any conversation we might have had. Weeks passed, then months. Life continued in its disciplined rhythm, yet cracks had formed in my certainty. I found myself thinking about Rachel's expression, about the courage it took to ask such a vulnerable question, and about how easily I dismissed the possibility that healing doesn't mean forgetting, and that loving again doesn't erase the past. Change didn't come as a dramatic epiphany. It arrived quietly through small moments. A widow at a support group speaking about finding joy without guilt, a stranger at a coffee shop smiling, and reminding me how simple human connection could feel. I began to understand that my fear wasn't loyalty. It was avoidance. Hannah's love had shaped me, not imprisoned me. Honoring her didn't require permanent solitude. One evening, reviewing reports alone in the office, I looked out at the Seattle skyline and felt something loosen inside my chest. For the first time in years, companionship didn't feel like a threat, it felt like continuation. I didn't know what it meant for my relationship with Rachel, but I knew I could no longer hide behind loss as an excuse. Time passed, slowly but unmistakably, and I felt a shift inside me. The fear that had locked my heart for years was fading. I started saying yes to invitations, to conversations, to small acts of connection. Each small step reminded me that grief and love could coexist. Rachel and I never had a grand confession or dramatic moment. Life doesn't always wrap itself up neatly, but I realized that even the smallest gestures, eye contact, a simple smile, a shared laugh, could rebuild a bridge thought broken. I learned that healing doesn't always come from forgetting. Sometimes it comes through courage, through vulnerability, through letting yourself risk again. That's what Rachel's question did for me. It sparked a small flame that gradually became hope. Now, I can look back at that office, at that exact question. What's stopping you from dating? And I know that one day, if our paths align again, I could answer differently, not with fear, but with faith. Life's journey from grief to hope taught me that heartbreak doesn't have to close the door forever. Healing can open it again. And sometimes, love itself is a way forward. If this story resonates with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Maybe this story will give someone else the courage to open their heart again.